Hey, Alicia Novin here. Most of my videos you'll probably see are geared towards people who are entry-level junior coders or people who are really just trying to get their footing in the tech coding space. But today I wanted to do something a little different and focus instead on managers, hiring managers, people who are interviewing, because I think that that's an area where we can all do better. So here we go. Interviewing is something I absolutely love. I love getting to meet people and just talking to them and finding out more about them. It's just a great experience, and I've had the pleasure of being able to do it quite a lot in my career. I think I've interviewed well over 100 people and hired more than 50 to 60 people. And one of the things that I'm most proud of is that in tech, the average person stays in their job for about 18 to 24 months, whereas my personal track record is around 36 months or more in some cases. And I'm proud of that, and I think it's because I spend a lot of time making sure that I'm finding the right person for the role that I have. So for that reason, I wanted to give 7 different suggestions on how we could be better at interviewing candidates and finding the right person. So here we go with number 1. One thing that I think we should do as interviewers is ditch the stock questions. They become so routine, so boring, so dull, and it's not really an authentic way of getting to know someone. When you ask them questions that you've asked 1,000 times over in the same kind of way, you do have consistency there, but you're losing that personal touch and you're losing the ability to really understand and get to know that person. In fact, when you ask that same question over and over, you become so robotic that you might become dispassionate and disinterested in what they're saying to you. And while you might be able to actually evaluate the responses by having that consistent formula of how you're asking questions, evaluating responses isn't really the right way to approach an interview setting. Judging the person's responses or the effectiveness of the responses doesn't put you in a good spot to actually be a good interviewer. It's very question and answer based, and people don't really talk that way. And so you won't get to know the person for who they are. You're only judging them for how well they are able to answer the questions that you've given them. And if you actually start having a conversation with them and actively listening to the things that they are saying, you'll hear something that will probably make you want to probe a little deeper. You'll hear where they get passionate, and you'll see their energy in them come to life. And those are the ways in which, just like if you were in any kind of setting where you're getting to know a stranger, you want to uphold your end of the conversation and make sure that you're putting them in the position where they feel comfortable and can tell you about themselves without just having to go through something that they've recited time and time again. Maybe you're called the hiring manager, but ultimately, when you think about it, you probably don't want to be a hiring manager. You want to be in the business of keeping people, being a keeping manager, if you will. And that means that there's a lot that you need to be doing on your side to make sure that you're retaining that person if you ultimately bring them on. You're building a relationship from day one, and day one starts the moment you're interviewing that person. So you want to make sure that you are showing to them that you are trustworthy, that you're honest and transparent, that you are someone that they want to be around and that they want to work with. You don't want to be adversarial. You don't want to be confrontational. You don't want to be distant or removed or disengaged. You want to approach every interview with the same kind of desire that that candidate will be successful. You want to see the best in them, because ultimately, if it does go forward, you want to make sure that you have already done enough to establish that relationship. Every candidate's going to feel nervous to some degree in an interview. And if they're really not feeling at ease with you, you're doing a bad job of interviewing them. No one performs that well under pressure, and interviews are high stakes kind of situations because ultimately it's what determines people's livelihood. And if you're not actively working to make sure that that person feels comfortable, that they feel like they're being listened to, that they feel like this can just be a conversation of 2 people that are just trying to make sure that this is ultimately a match for both parties, that they're not trying to have to prove something to you. If you can do that by being encouraging and friendly, being informal when it helps, ask them questions that you'd ask a person out on the street in the way that you're just trying to get to know them. When you do that and you put them at ease, you start to see who they really are, and you get to understand them for what they can actually do and deliver. The last few ones are ultimately about having honest conversations, and that means that you're going to have doubts and you don't want to sit on them. You should raise your doubts and your concerns with the other person. And you can do so in a sensitive way, in a caring way, but ultimately letting them know where your concerns lie so that they can speak to them. Give them the benefit of the doubt and know that maybe the circumstances that you're seeing could be spoken to and could be elaborated upon and would put any kind of concerns you have at rest. So for example, if someone's only spent 5 months at a company and you're trying to figure out, do they job hop? Are they just going to leave? Ask them about it, but ask them in such a way that doesn't put them on the defensive, but lets them know that you're asking because you have a legitimate concern, but that you're open to hearing how they can respond to it. Whenever you ask a hiring manager how soon they need to fill a role, they'll usually respond that it would have been great if this role was filled a month ago. I'm already behind. I need this person as soon as possible. And the problem is that when you're thinking that way, then you start evaluating your candidates against the role as it is defined on paper today. Now the problem is that over the next few months, 6 months, that role and that team and the dynamics, so much is going to change. And you can't predict a lot of it. But the better you know your team and the members on your team and how they want to grow and what their aspirations are, you can make a better selection of your candidates, because your candidates are all going to provide something different to that overall team. Before you turn away a candidate that might need more support from the team, ask yourself if there's someone on the team that might want to be growing into a role where they're providing more mentoring and providing more leadership. The better you know your team, the better you can plan and find the right person, not for the right seat as it exists today, but that right seat among the team as it's going to shift. You're not hiring just for a role, you're hiring for a team. So ask yourself about the dynamics of that person as it will exist with the rest of the team. It's important to ask technical questions. I'm not a big fan of asking coding questions, but if you want to ask more technical questions to get a gauge for how much that person understands and what they know, also just remember that no one performs well under pressure, under stress. And so you'll likely see that person struggle, you might see them fail, and that should be okay. What you want to do is assess their ability to learn, not recite. So ask the question in a different way. Give them hints, give them suggestions, help them along so that they can ultimately get to the solution in a collaborative sense, not just from reciting something from rote memory. A skill you want to develop is the ability to talk to someone about their passion, even when you don't know a thing about it. It's okay to not have all of the information, and so have them explain certain things to you about whatever their passion might be. If it's gaming, if it's music, if it's crochet, whatever it might be, ask them about it, because you'll start to see the types of things that intrigue them. You'll start to see what their personality looks like and what kind of challenges they like to take on and how they like to use their time and how they like to push themselves. Those are all things that will be great analogs to ultimately how they'll fit in the role. And if you ask it about their passion, you'll get a lot more honest answers, and the conversation just as a whole will be a lot more energetic, it'll be exciting, and it'll be more of a conversation as opposed to just a very stilted question and answer kind of interview. Those are the ways I think we can improve interviewing overall. If you'll notice, a lot of them boiled down to just having natural conversations with people, not taking a Q&A approach. I think now more than ever, being able to establish a connection with someone, building rapport, building a foundation for trust and honesty, it'll make the conversation better, it'll make the relationship better, and it'll add some more longevity to whatever the relationship will look like, even to the point where you might not extend an offer to that person today, but you might 6 months down the line or a year down the line. The point is that every single time you have an opportunity to have someone sit across from you, you want to do your best to get to know them in a way that is a lot more natural and in a way that is going to get honest responses. And the only way that I think you can really do that is by having a genuine conversation with someone. So I hope you enjoyed it. If you disagree with me or you agree with me, let me know. Always happy to chat more about it. Also check out my podcast called Increments. It's on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify. It's also on YouTube. I hope you liked it and I hope we'll talk soon.